So I don't remember much about what happened, but I will tell you guys what I do remember. So I had to be around the grade school age, and we were at a church event. And of course, it was their version of the Harvest Festival or Halloween or whatever it was at that time. And my mom insisted that I go into this haunted house. Now, I could tell even as a kid, I'm like, okay, this is just a tent and it was cheaply done. But again, I was in grade school, so this was still kind of scary. I didn't know what was inside there and I didn't want to go. I don't remember my mom coming in with me. I don't remember my brother going in with me. I just remember being there alone. I remember how I felt. I'm sure there was some really cheap decor of some kind. I don't know if it was spooky related or anything like that, but it was supposed to represent a haunted house. And the reason I know this is because I saw the exit from where I was standing, and for whatever reason, I couldn't turn back because I just felt forced to be here. Does that ring any bells? This is my whole life, apparently. And I just was thinking, okay, I'm going to get from point A to point B as quickly as I can. And I remember going there swiftly without running because I didn't want to trip over anything. I didn't want anything to pop out at me. But I just remember going quickly. And then all of a sudden, somebody grabbed my legs. And they had to be underneath a table or something because I didn't see them. I didn't see the hand. All of a sudden, just somebody grabbed my legs. And of course, I screamed and ran out of there. This is at a church event. Now, last week we talked about the candy compromise and the whole BS that involves churches giving out candy as if we're doing anything different than what the world does when they give out candy. But today we're talking about like WTF happened. Why are we scaring children purposefully? So that's what makes me think this had to have been of a haunted house of some kind. Now, obviously, my mom didn't know the extent of what was going to happen in there. I've forgiven my mom. She didn't know any better, whatever the case may be moving forward. But the fact that I felt like I was alone. I really don't believe that anybody was with me during this time. And some stranger is touching me. You guys see this, right? And this was at the church. This was like a normal thing. Obviously, other kids went in there. I can't be the only one traumatized from this. So my question is, what entered me when I entered that haunted house? And what are we doing? Positioning ourselves in these situations. Now, we don't know to the extent that we ourselves can be haunted houses. Spirits dwell in beings. They dwell in objects. They dwell in animals. And they like to be hosted inside of people. And they like to manipulate people and have people, think certain things and do certain things. And all of it is to remove ourselves further and further away from honoring God in any way possible. Now, sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's not. When I left my second and I was going through self-deliverance and just kind of like, okay, what do I need to get out of me? I'm going through forgiveness. I'm going through all these things. But I still felt there was something, if not more, still inside of me. And there were certain thoughts that I would get that I know that were not my own. And I know where I got them from because my second would be talking about these things. And it would drive me crazy. And so I'm putting my hand on my head. I'm putting my Bible on me. I'm trying to cast this thing out. And I'm like, I don't agree with this anymore. I break all covenant, like everything. And it was still lingering. Now, it wasn't until I was actually getting I got hands laid on and I was getting help through deliverance where I was able to get that last bit out and a whole lot more came out with it. And I'm just thinking, I know things came out of me during self-deliverance. Obviously, the first one with fear. That's what God did to remove that, to get everything else out of me. But I was a haunted house. My entire body was a haunted house. And now I'm still suffering the effects physically from it. My body has gone through so much because of the damage that was done. Not only does my face look differently than it should have been, if I didn't have these demons inside of me, if I was healthy, if I was taking care of myself, if I didn't have to go through what I went through with trauma, my body in itself, my sexuality and my purity, obviously a lot of that was ruined because I allowed it to happen, right? I will take fault 100%. Hey, that was my fault. I did that. I was not okay. But there's other parts that were not of my doing, that came with the abuse, that came with the trauma, that came with, I didn't have a way out. And I'm still suffering the consequences physically from the damage that was done from him. And so, even though my house is not a haunted house anymore, there's times where I look at it and I'm reminded of how haunted it used to be. And if anything, it helps me to praise God that I'm not there anymore, and knowing that my body is still healing in a lot of ways, because where I'm at in my journey, I'm still in the healing process. And I didn't realize how much physical damage got done. Even though the physical abuse was minor comparatively. Now in the Bible, it talks about how we need to sweep the demons left, and then we need to sweep it out, clean it up. But if we don't fill it with the Holy Spirit, they're going to come back and they're going to bring back a whole bunch of their friends that are more evil than they are. Now, I experienced this with my second. So I know what that looks like when evil leaves and when it comes back with more. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm now filled with the Holy Spirit. But then there's all these new things because I'm a new Christian, I'm a new believer. And it's this weird situation because, again, if you guys know my testimony, I grew up Christian. And yet my body was a haunted house for these things. So I'm trying to, with you guys, kind of distinguish when the spirit of fear actually entered. Because this is an obvious situation where, wow, a stranger grabbing at your ankles, not okay. That's probably what happened. Okay, perhaps. Or perhaps it happened when I was around that same age, when I was molested by neighbor kids. But I don't think so. I don't know, because I was already afraid before then. I didn't move. I didn't know what else to do. I was like, what? Just get it over with and go away. I froze. That's kind of like my MO when I was used to be scared. It was just like I froze. I don't know what else to do. But I think the spirit of fear happened sooner. And I don't remember this, but my mom does. And because I'm doing a whole Halloween evil spiritual cleansing, it seems like, for this month, I'm going to bring you guys back to when I was a very young girl. My mom says I was about 2 years old or so. And my dad used to work at a toy store. And of course, during this holiday season, it's holiday. You guys can't see me doing my quotations. Holiday. During this time of year, there's a certain doll that's very popular. Y'all know what it is. And apparently they sold it at the toy store with other toys where children could come and see this. Now, I don't know at what stage of the unveiling where they have to, open up these toys and put it out for display and all this and that. I don't know at what point these guys were in the middle of that. I'm praying to God they perhaps just opened them up just recently. I didn't have a chance to put it up in a different location of the store. That's what I'm praying. Because at 2 years old, and I'm standing at the same height level of this doll, because we are the same height when the doll is standing up. And if you guys know what the face looks like, it's not pretty. It's not a pretty face. And not only that, if you guys know anything about the actual origin of the movie, it is a serial killer who has performed a voodoo ritual, a satanic ritual, to embody his soul into this doll. I'm staring at this. This is honestly where I think the spirit of fear came in, was because of that moment right then and there. And then my mom, all of a sudden, from what it sounds like, sees me staring at this thing and moves me away. Oh, here you go, honey. Like, oh, that's not pretty. But she said ever since then, I stopped playing with my dolls. And I used to be very girly girl, apparently, up until that point. After seeing that doll, I never played with any regular dolls. And I became deathly afraid of dolls. That was one of my biggest things growing up. I couldn't go to any of my friends' homes without knowing where all the dolls were. As long as I knew where they were, I was okay for the most part. But I remember one Christmas at Rite Aid, they had all these dolls lined up on both sides of the aisle, way on the top shelf, and they were huge too, like giant dolls. And they were regular, fun, pretty dolls, plush and all that. But I remember sitting on the floor and just crying. And I was a lot older at that time. I had to have been in junior high or so, maybe beginning of high school, just wailing. So now when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, around that time, I decided to finally watch that movie, the doll movie. And I wanted to watch the original one because I was tired of being afraid of dolls, because that's honestly what I thought it was. And again, this is after I've seen the Psycho. So I was already intrigued with the horror aspect. I think already at that time I liked Freddy Krueger, which again is insane if you guys know anything about that origin. Wasn't into Michael Myers yet or anything like that. And I don't need to go down all the whole list, but I'm just trying to, in my, where I was at in the whole horror aspect of it. And I remember watching that movie and laughing because it wasn't scary so much anymore. And again, the original one is in the 80s. And they do a very good job in regards to the filmography and how they have like puppets and they have robots and they have an actual actor who's portraying the doll on certain scenes, right? And so as an adult watching an 80s film where there's no CGI or any of these things, I'm able to appreciate it. Again, I'm going back from where it was. And it made me laugh. But because of, and then I wasn't afraid anymore of those dolls or anything like that. And then in fact, I became obsessed with it, just like I did with Psycho. Then now this was my favorite movie. So I watched all the sequels, thought it was the funniest thing. This guy is so funny. He's so rude. Not realizing that I am opening up my body to more haunted things. It might seem so harmless. And again, it was this portrayal of, hey, I'm scared of this doll, so let's watch the movie and not be scared of it. Okay. However, to become obsessed with it at that point is a little ridiculous. It's one thing to watch it and go, okay, this is not as scary. I understand why he's that way now. Okay, it's this guy performing a satanic ritual. Okay, that's not godly, dude. Not cool. I don't like how. Now I understand why it looks the way it does. I understand why it's supposed to be the way it is. I understand the appeal of it to the pop culture, but I don't need to entertain that in my life. But again, I didn't have discernment when I was this age. I share all this with you guys for a reason. The devil is so quick to do whatever he can to get us away from the truth. So remember, I was afraid of that doll. The devil wins, right? Okay, we scared her. The spirit of fear entered her and never left. I grew up in a house full of fear in different ways. There was fear all around me. Don't do this, don't do that. No, it's too scary. Ah, oh, life. And yet there's not silver lining. There's a hidden light in that, because, man, I could go into that too. I'll go into that another time. We will go into that, of my childhood, growing up Baptist and all that, because that's very interesting. So put a bookmark on that. I love my parents. So there's nothing about that. It's just how the devil works in my heart through situations, okay? So it's not anything about my parents or my grandparents or anything like that. I love them. I've forgiven them for not knowing. Like, God is so good and great. I'm an adult. I can't be blaming them on that. So going back to, I didn't even know I was a haunted house, right? And so taking the spirit of fear, and now like, okay, she's not going to be afraid of this movie anymore, but let's make it where she's obsessed with it, where she likes it, and she's going to continue watching the series. Right? And so it allowed another demonic way to keep moving forward in the direction away from the truth. So it still shifted, but it didn't make it right. Now, I'm not saying or promoting anybody looking at things that you're afraid of and watching it and go, okay, I'm not afraid of it anymore. That's not what I'm saying. I probably wouldn't watch it now as a Christian, obviously. But what should have happened was like, okay, this is dumb, but I understand why. I'm able to do that now with anything coming up that is appealing to the world, all these things, and it's just like, no, this is so overstimulating. This is too much. This is nothing. This is nothing how it's not helpful in any way. And there's so much out there now about what entertainment really means and what it's supposed to do. And I believe that God is entertaining us all around us. We don't need to be entertained by the world and by things that keep our eyes away from God. Like, you guys know that God created animals and the depths that we haven't discovered yet on purpose because they entertain God. And who are we when all we've proven is that we just like to kill animals and use them for various reasons? Now there's like, there's so many animals that are extinct because we're killing them for whatever reasons, or we are removing their homes, their natural habitats to grow things that we don't really need. So I'm glad that God keeps certain things private that are still on earth, that are still yet to be discovered for a reason. And I'm so grateful for that. But that's what he entertains himself with. And people who love animals are entertained by animals all the time. They're absolutely fun. And that's just one example. But if you look up at the sky and you see, the stars and, the clouds, like, cloud gazing is so much fun. Like, oh, they look like different shapes. And, oh, I see this, but you see that. And I don't see what you see. And, oh, my gosh, this is so much fun. And I know that's like such a low stimulating early 90s, late 80s way of like entertaining oneself. And I'm not trying to say like life should be boring or you shouldn't go see a movie. It's more of protecting yourself better. But what I do know is that when I'm driving by and I see the lawns, they're full of these giant statues of death and skeletons, and it just makes my heart sad and my stomach sick, because I'm thinking, like, this is a neighborhood that kids ride bikes down, kids walk home from, and they're subject to that. And as adults, we should be protecting our children, and we don't. We've gotten so desensitized ourselves, and we just allow kids to watch certain things and do certain things and go certain places, and we have no regards to their safety. That includes their eyes and their ears. And I'm so proud that there's so many parents that are stepping up in regards to, like, what children should and shouldn't be watching and where they should and shouldn't go. I can't take my kids to the store right now. Not because I am scared of it. It's more like I'm just trying to protect their eyes. I want to protect their eye gates from seeing those images. I want to protect their ear gates from hearing the music that goes with it. And I have to make a confession, this will be the last thing I'll say, is that before the last year before I got saved, the last Halloween before I got saved, I did celebrate Halloween with my kids. Now, we didn't go trick-or-treating. It was actually at an event. It was a local event. It wasn't even at a church, like I mentioned. But, of course, they're handing out candy, and there's games and, jumping houses and all that, face painting. Everyone's dressed up in costumes. I dressed up my kids in costumes and let them do their thing. Like, I'm so sad about it now. And during this time, because again, I was with the one who used to celebrate this holiday, I would go into the Spirit of Halloween stores, those stores that you go into and it's just Halloween, right? They're the pop-ups that take over abandoned places, and they just are there for 2 months or so. And they sell the costumes and the gear and all the lawn ornaments, everything. And I took my kids there. And they're young kids. And they don't want to be there. And I just want to look like, no, guys, it's okay. It's okay. This is why I'm not mad at my parents for letting me see the Chucky doll when I was little. Because who am I when I purposely took my kids to a only Halloween store, a Halloween only store, right? Just to look around, just to kind of see what they have and make it normalized, because that's what every other parent was doing with their kids. We weren't the only kids there. We weren't the only families there. There's babies in there. My son was still in a stroller, I think, at that time. Like, come on. Now, praise God, he's delivered me from that. I'm saved. My children have been prayed over. Like, we're moving forward in that. But you can't tell me damage wasn't done during that time. And if we continue to normalize it, like, how many years did I have the spirit of fear? That eventually was the strong man, if not was the strong man from the beginning, to allow other things to happen. We talked about my testimony, how I wasn't able to speak up for myself. That is a part of fear. Now, there's more that I'm going to go into that at another time. But do you understand? Like, it's all part of it. It all is part of it. It will seem harmless in that time. It will seem normal in that time. But because I wasn't able to speak up for myself, look at the people I allowed in my life and the damage that got done to my family, where now they have a different family. And I'm over here healing from a trauma that should have never have happened if the spirit of fear wasn't the strong man in my life. And you could easily, argue, oh, well, you had the sexual problem. That's why you allowed that guy in your car. Okay. But remember, I didn't like him in my car the second he got in, because I didn't realize it at that time, but there was those spirits with him. He had all those spirits just hanging around him. And I felt it, but I didn't know what it was. And before then, I can only see certain spirits. I never felt them before. So I had no idea that there was demons hanging around him. But I know in that time, if I said, hey, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's do this another time. Have a good night. I'm so sorry. Like his house is right down the street. Like whatever BS lie he told his other girl at that time, like he would have figured it out, right? I'm not worried about that. That's the whole woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I want to get you guys this perspective that the spirit of fear in me, because that was my strong man, did so much damage down the line. But it was years of it being inside of me and doing damage and allowing other things in me. So I couldn't get out when I was trapped. Because I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for my children's lives. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. So last week when I talked about the candy compromise, there's a reason for that, because that is traumatizing when you're opening up those doors. It is traumatizing for those kids when the church looks exactly the same as the world. That's traumatizing. And it is traumatizing when we are not careful of what we allow our children to go through. And sometimes, even with our best efforts, like things happen that is out of our control. But God has them, and you have to just prepare them as much as you possibly can. And if something does happen and you weren't there to prevent it, or God forbid you miss something and something happened, God is still greater, and he can still love them and protect them and drive out whatever needs to be driven out. And God will use what the enemy meant for evil for good, because God is good. God is a good God. And sometimes he allows evil to happen, not because he enjoys it. It's so that we know how good he is when it is gone. How will we understand the difference between good and evil if we're always good all the time? If nothing bad ever happens to us or to anybody else, we won't know any better. Don't you think that's how God designed it in the first place? To be in paradise with him, to walk with him? But no, we've all turned towards our own way. We all blame Adam and Eve for their participation in sin, as if you wouldn't have done the same thing. He made them perfect. He made them in his image. They haven't been tainted yet, right? They didn't have parents to blame. We would have done the exact same thing. It doesn't matter if it was Adam and Eve or if it was Julie Renee or whoever. We all would have done the same thing. Because that's what the devil does. He knows how to say things and how to do things. And if we don't have our eyes on God and we start listening to what we think is better than us, than what God says, if we think we know better than what God says, and we listen to other voices that are not God, then we will do the same thing. So parents, I love you guys. It is not easy to be a parent. Please come to Jesus right now and just ask him what you're doing, not only in this season of the Halloween season, but in general, what movies you're allowing your kids to watch, what programs that they're involved in, what friends they're hanging around. Like just clean house, clean that haunted house. What is in your house physically that needs to go, and what's internal? We have to work on the internal first, and the outside will come easily. We have to wash the inside of the cup. The outside of the cup will naturally become washed when we wash the inside. I love you guys. We can do this. We can do this. We don't have to let Halloween be the normal in our houses, in our neighborhoods. And if we start working with the churches, like, let's drive Halloween out. Let's be a city that doesn't have Halloween participation in it. Hey, in this city, we celebrate the fall season. And we give thanks to God. And we utilize this time to come together as a community, to give food to those who do not have food, to clothe them because, hey, it's starting to get cooler outside. Like, that's what our community should be doing. That's what our money should be going towards, not going towards celebrating this evilness. Instead of putting money towards candy, I'm not going to go into that again, but you guys listen to last week's podcast. Money going towards the decorations. You know how much money? I had 2 giant tubs, guys. I had 2 giant tubs of decorations for Halloween, and then I bought brand new spider webs every year. Tons of it. Now, I am an event planner, a decorator, so like, I got really creative with this stuff. I made sure it looked really good. And you know what I mean by good. We can do this, guys. I love you. If you guys need support, let me know. I do one-on-one coaching for a reason. And that's going to be a limited amount of time before we start doing our group coaching. But I just want to make sure that you guys are taken care of. So reach out for any type of coaching, depending on when you guys listen to this. So, but yeah, let's get rid of the Halloween. Let's get rid of the haunted houses. Let's get rid of it inside of us. Let's get rid of it outside. Let's change the world one home at a time, one city at a time, one community at a time. We can do this. All right, I love you guys. Take care.